Shri Shrimad, His Divine Grace, Abhaya Chandanad Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nandagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar, Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Kund Radha Kunda, Gita Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Ki Jai, Mathura Jagat Swami Ki Jai, Yamuna Maya Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharini Visesha Shunyavani Paschatya Deshatari Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, thank you all for coming here on such short notice. And we're very happy to see everyone here. So, I'll speak a few words, and then after that we'll have Damodar Ashtaka, worship of Lord Damodar. We have one more. So, in other words, we have our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who is not only the founder of Acharya, but actually he is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's special representative to preach Krishna consciousness all over the world, especially Paschatya Deshatarni. That means in the Western world, and especially deal with those who are overcome with Nirvishesha, Shunyavadi, impersonalism, and voidism. So, Srila Prabhupada has given us the standard for devotional service, and all of us in this Krishna consciousness movement have as our duty to serve Srila Prabhupada and his society, because serving Srila Prabhupada's society is the same as serving Srila Prabhupada. So oftentimes I get the question, like all the time, frankly, I get the question from people, how can I serve you, Maharaj, or Gurudev, or something like that? And my answer is always the same. Serve Srila Prabhupada's mission. You understand? Because this is actually what will please Prabhupada. Because all of us in the Krishna conscious movement are servants of Prabhupada. My identity is a servant of Prabhupada. Just like I may be sitting here getting some Guru Puja or whatever people are doing who came here to see me. But I'm thinking I'm just serving Prabhupada. In other words, Gopi Bharta Padakamala Dasa 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 Dasa. Every one of us is a servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord who serves the gopis of Vrindavan, and specifically those of us who are members of ISKCON are servants of Srila Prabhupada. So that's what would please me the most, is if the devotees serve Prabhupada and his mission. What does it mean to serve Prabhupada and his mission? That means to help push forward the movement. Prabhupada entitled the Krishna Conscious Movement the Krishna Conscious Movement, not the Krishna Conscious Society, not the Krishna Conscious, of course it's called the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, but generally he would refer to things as the Krishna Conscious Movement, because he expected things to move. And when I was with Prabhupada, he manifested to me directly in front of me, that he was most pleased when he saw more people coming to Krishna consciousness, more books being distributed, more devotees deepening their own Krishna consciousness. Movement, not static. Of course, ecstatic, but not static. Static means just to remain in the same situation. So that's why Prabhupada was always talking about, as far as the book distribution, double it like that. And on one occasion, when I was with Prabhupada in Srinath Mayapur, after his evening darshan, I was explaining to Srila Prabhupada how the temple that I was in charge of, we had distributed, not me, but the devotees, had distributed 35,000 big Bhagavad Gita's in one day. Because nowadays people, I guess, are doing more. And there's one devotee in the United States who does 7,000 books in one day. Pretty amazing, isn't it? It's unimaginable. I mean, you have to, it's like a machine gun. If you average it out per minute, I mean, I can't. It's inconceivable chincha. So anyway, so when Prabhupada heard that, in 1 week, we distributed 35,000 big Bhagavad Gita's. Prabhupada, his eyes opened wide. You know, previously Prabhupada was listening to different things about temple construction and everything like that. But Prabhupada was just, oh, very nice, very nice. And then his eyes opened wide. And then when I explained to Prabhupada that, that this one devotee had distributed 10,000 of those Gitas in 1 month, Prabhupada said, he has the mercy of Krishna. And as the story goes, which I've told before, obviously, that I was feeling envious, and Prabhupada looked around the room and said, oh, we all have the mercy of Krishna. He said, just like the gopis. So the point is, I'm not saying everybody has to go out and distribute books, but to contribute. Like Prabhupada gave the expression, and the same expression was given by his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur, relating it to the Indian railway system, where the motto was keep the wheels turning. Keep the wheels turning means everybody has a part to play. So those who do the deity worship, those who manage the temples, they're actually managing the temples and doing the deity worship and cooking for the ultimate purpose of assisting those who are going out and preach, or preaching through the deity worship, because people come and see the deities. And they become attracted to the deities, or people come and take prasadam. So it's not, when I talk about movement, spreading, whatever, it's not simply, the direct frontline preachers I'm talking about. It's those who assist the frontline preacher, they get the same benefit. Prabhupada actually said at another time, those who manage the Sankirtan movement are going back to Godhead. It doesn't mean you go back to Godhead by management. But those who are responsible for managing those, or managing as a center, and pushing, but we always have to keep in mind the ultimate purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? What is the purpose? What is our mission statement, right? And as it was said succinctly by one of the devotees, more devotees, happier devotees. It's a good mission statement, isn't it? Because happiness only comes when you're Krishna conscious. And more devotees, real devotees, only comes when you're actually presenting Krishna consciousness in a pure way, and they're taking up Krishna consciousness in a pure way, not through some trick or something like that. So now we're going to talk about the second topic. It's a good segue. So the second topic is how do we keep our purity in the Krishna conscious movement? Oh, of course, we understand we have 4 regular principles, 16 rounds, like that, rising early, etc., like that. But there's actually more to it than that, because as time goes on, we find that different procedures may seep into the body of devotees, not bodies, into the general mass of devotees that really were not given to us by Prabhupada or our founder or the previous acharyas. We have very inventive minds. Like Prabhupada said, you Western boys and girls like to change things. But I would say you Indian boys and girls. You like to, you find some new ritual in some book, isn't it? And you add it. I'll just give you an example, and hopefully I'm not offending anybody. Recently we had a festival called Gopastami. Now Gopastami, of course, is mentioned in the Vedic literatures as the day that Krishna was given charge of the cows. And so, but there's certain things that certain devotees may do, like dressing around like a cowboy and showing her feet, which there's actually lecture problems at that. Don't show her feet. But anyway, so I'm not to criticize, maybe I am, but it's just to give an indication how we keep adding things. I mean, maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Actually, I did a lot of research. Didn't find any quote in any Shastra. I mean, there's a lot of talk about it on the internet. You know, it's posted on this site, there's books written about it, but not in any Shastra. I don't want to harp on that one particular point. But we have the standard of Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. In other words, if I am going to say something, I want to be able to back it up with some Shastric quote, or a quote from our Acharyas. You know, because the Acharyas' writings are Shastric. You know, they add to the Shastra, they enhance the Shastra, just like Shukadeva Goswami. There's no Shukadeva Goswami because parrot means someone who can peck on a piece of fruit and make it more ripe. That's how Prabhupada explains it. So, you know, pure devotees, they enhance, don't change. They don't change the Siddhanta, they don't change the Bhava, they don't change the Tattva. Those things always remain the same. The method of presentation may change. So, we have to be very careful, especially when we're dealing with the intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Especially when we're dealing with things like that. Actually, I was just reading in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada said that unless one, it's actually interesting, unless one is actually advancing in Krishna consciousness, they shouldn't go beyond the first and second canto of the Bhagavatam. So I'm not saying don't read the third canto. Because the first canto is the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the advantage of meditating on the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that you want to serve. Pravasena, right? Just like when I see the deity, I look at the deities and I look at their feet first. And immediately looking at Krishna's feet, I think I just want to render you some service. It's a very interesting phenomenon that occurs. And if I look at Krishna's face, of course I think how beautiful he is and all that other nice things. But there's more service attitude when I look at the feet. So that's the first thing we need to learn. So, anyway, so Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu, these are our three standards, like they're supposed to be three divisions of the government, you know, executive, legislative, and judicial. So these are three standards of understanding things. So in my life, I've tried to always apply Krishna consciousness according to the way Prabhupada applied it. And by doing that, and Prabhupada's priorities, and by doing that, we maintain our standard of purity. And by maintaining the standard of purity, we can actually spread the Krishna consciousness movement. As Prabhupada says, you know, purity is the force. Purity is the force. Which utility principle, use your intelligence, like that. And so that's, to me, that's of extreme importance, purity and loyalty to Srila Prabhupada. And that's been my saving grace, even though I may not have any other good qualities. But, you know, I'm extremely loyal to Prabhupada, and I try to execute Krishna consciousness the way Prabhupada instructed us. And therefore, I'm still here after 50 some odd years. So, anyway, so that was my brief talk. I don't know, brief. So, does anyone have any questions? Or any other topic you'd like to hear about? Topic? Any topic of your choice. As long as it has to do with Krishna. Yes.
How's the crowd control in the crowd?
What's that?
How's the crowd control in the crowd?
Crowd control.
You just done it.
I didn't come from
Oh, you
Vrindavan.
didn't.
No. I said every other year I go to Vrindavan. Oh yeah, that's what I want to talk about. So this year, I didn't go to Vrindavan or Govardhan like that. Yeah. And the reason for that, I mean, there's many reasons, health reasons and stuff like that. So one should think, one may think, that you must be very unhappy not going to Vrindavan and not going to Govardhan this year. Well, Krishna has this interesting verse in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 30, which is one of my favorite verses. Yomam pasati sarvatra sarum chamai pasati tasham pranashami sacharmena pranashyati. Which basically means one who sees me and everything that sees everything in me is never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. So, when something happens outside of your control, you have to see Krishna behind it. You don't have to, as you should, see Krishna behind it. I mean, if something happens under your control, it's your fault, you rascal. Like if I do, or if someone does something foolish like jumps off a building and they get hurt, they say, Krishna wanted. Or one time the devotees got in a car accident, and because they didn't get enough sleep at night, and they fell asleep while they were driving. And what's that? Something interesting. And they said to Prabhupada, Krishna's mercy, and Prabhupada said, no, you're foolish, their foolishness. So we should basically see whatever happens to us outside of our control as being sent by Krishna for our benefit. So even something like a health challenge can be very beneficial to people spiritually. It helps one understand, in my case, that we're not the supreme controller. Because when one is, basically good health and youthful and everything like that, then one is thinking, I have the whole world in my hands, And I know everything about health and everything like that. And then Krishna pulls a rug out from under you and he says, okay, try. It's just like that story in the Puranas about Garuda, the bird carrier, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Garuda one time said to Vishnu that you need me to fly. You can't go anywhere without me. And Vishnu said, okay. So he put his little arm, not little arm, big arm, universal arm, on Garuda's back and said, okay, fly. Fly, bird, fly. And basically Garuda got crushed. So when Krishna sends some challenging circumstance, we should try to understand what Krishna is saying to us and how to act appropriately according to that circumstance. And that will deepen our Krishna consciousness. As Queen Kunti says, of course we don't emulate her, imitate her. Tatra tatra jagat guru. Again and again let these difficulties happen. Of course I'm not saying that. That would lead us that. Prabhupada said we shouldn't say that. Because Krishna will send enough as it is. So anyway, we see Krishna behind it and we deepen our own Krishna consciousness, get more into the holy names, read more, become a little bit humble, and that helps us in our Krishna consciousness. And so that's very important. Very, very important to help us advance in Krishna consciousness in that way. So this year I didn't go. And that was Krishna's arrangement. And I'm not bereft or I haven't lost any Krishna consciousness because I didn't go. I just took an opportunity, like when life gives you a lemon, you make lemonade, as they say. So, good question. Who else has a question? Yes, I'll give you another question.
How did Gopastami originate?
It's in the Vedic literatures. Gopastami is the time when Krishna was given the charge of the cows.
But the pastime along with that?
I have no idea. There's a lot of things you hear when you're in Vrindavan or Govardhan where you just question, where's that story from? Now, most of the stories, or many of the stories, are from the Goswami's literature. For example, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he does tell a story of how Radharani put on Subal's dress, but that was to escape from her home. Because there was this whole I'll tell you the whole story, it's a really interesting story. Once upon a time, there was Jatila and Kutila, that is the mother-in-law and sister-in-law of Radharani, and of course Radharani's husband was named Abhimanyu. Not the same one in the Mahabharata, don't worry. Completely different. And he's like an expansion of Krishna, like somehow or other, but he never touches Radharani. Never even goes close to her. He's thinking he wants to get close to her, but never. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually relates all these interesting pastimes about this. So anyway, one time she was kept captive in her house by her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. And Krishna wanted to see her. So he enlisted the help of Subal. And what happened was Subal basically went outside of their house or outside of the grounds, and you may believe he was looking for a calf that was lost. And so he was asked by Jatila, what are you doing? And he said, I'm looking for this calf. And maybe the calf wandered into your compound. So can I look inside there? So Subal, the interesting thing about Subal, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, is he had a lot of the same features as Srimati Radharani. Krishna arranges this. And so he goes into the compounds, and he sees Srimati Radharani, and they basically change clothes. In a chaste way, they change stuff. He dresses up as her, and she dresses up as him. And basically, she grabs a little calf, holds it in front of her, so cover her breast like that, and walks out of the house. And she associates with Krishna, obviously, at that particular point, and later on she goes back and they switch back. So, that's actually a pastime. It's told by the Acharya, a very sweet pastime. So I want to make sure that when I talk, what I'm saying is coming from Krishna. I mean, it's absolutely, it's our descending process. Because basically, we do have several tendencies, as we know, if we first joined the Krishna conscious movement, the first thing I learned was that we have a tendency to make mistakes. We have a tendency to cheat, to be an illusion, and we certainly have imperfect senses. Right? I mean, at least I do. I'm not talking about anyone else here. And because of these things, so it's very important the descending process of understanding things. Srila Jiva Goswami speaks about this extensively in his book, Gopatatma Sandarbha. In other words, he describes how do you know what you know, which in philosophy is called epistemology. How do you know what you know? And what do we know for sure? Because we have imperfect senses, right? For absolute sure, what do we know? Do I absolutely know that I'm on this earth planet? You said absolutely? No. You can't. I mean, well, I am on the earth planet. I'm not smoking anything, or an illusion about it. But as far as absolute knowledge, Dharam tu Sakshat, Bhagavat Pranita, comes down. So how do we know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Well, 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam, Purusham Shashvata, Divyam, Anideva Maham, Yuru. Ahostvam Vishyak Sade, Devarshir, Naradastata. Where Arjuna says, you're the supreme abode, you're the supreme purifier. Like this. And how do I know this? Because all the great sages have said this to you. Not because I'm saying it. He said also. And then in the 11th chapter, Krishna actually shows. 11th chapter of the Gita, of course, is the universal form. He shows that he's a supreme personality. He gives a brief demonstration which frightens Arjuna to death. And then Arjuna wants to see the two-handed form, four-handed form, and then the two-handed form of Krishna. So, that's how we know things ultimately because it comes down through disciplic succession. Evam param praptam imam rajarashayo vidahu. And actually, Srila Jiva Goswami establishes that Bhagavatam is the ultimate source of knowing. So we have the Bhagavatam and the literatures of the great sages. So that's how I know things. So there's a lot of things that come up as the Krishna conscious movement goes on that we add. Some of these things are good, but if life becomes so complex. I remember one time I was staying in the ashram with somebody, and I wanted to go to Mangalarti, and they were in the shower, and the shower lasted like half an hour or something. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm calling the Ganges." He was an expert pujari. He was calling the Ganges, bathing in sacred rivers in the morning. He said, "It's time for Mangalarti." So we can add so many things, but the way when I joined Krishna consciousness, it was just very simple. Chant Hare Krishna, the Srila Prabhupada's books, eat prasadam. Huh? What else? Worship the deities like that. It was just like so simple. Such a simple process. And of course, if we're going to present Krishna consciousness to people in a wide-scale fashion, we have to keep it like that too. Because people come, especially in the West. I mean, sometimes in India, people really like rituals. A lot of extra rituals. They say, wow, this must be bona fide. Because you spent 3 hours doing Achman. Oh my God. But as far as spreading Krishna consciousness worldwide, it should be very basic Krishna consciousness. The way Prabhupada taught us. Yeah, Prabhupada came to the Western world and he just started with something very simple, but didn't really get very complex actually by the time he left. It was actually very simple. No elaborate fasts. I mean, even on Ekadashi, Prabhupada would have the devotees make him a Ekadashi feast. I'm not saying you shouldn't fast in Ekadashi. That's not what I mean, obviously we fast with grains and beans and all that kind of stuff. But it was so blissful joining the movement in the beginning. I would look forward to Ekadashi because we'd eat more on Ekadashi than any other day. He was blissful. I don't do that now, of course. But it was extremely blissful to... It was just very simple. You join, you have fun, and wow. Anyway, Kevalananda Kanda. Bhajabai, Shabai, Chaitanya Nitai. Just worship the Lord Chaitanya, Lord. It's fun to be happy. Anyway, I know that's politically incorrect. So anyways, so who else has, you have more questions? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And on that point of elaboration,
Yeah.
so many aspects of
Yeah.
Is it version of the point of the risk of the
Yeah. So that's actually an extremely good point. We find in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Shamrata, Ajahara Prayasas Java Japa Janasandra Chasa Vinashati. That if we get to so many things and we forget why we're doing what we're doing, when we're doing it, and the whole purpose of all these different procedures is to help us focus the mind. Like the first rule of regulation is what? To always remember Krishna. The second rule of regulation is never forget Krishna. So the purpose of all these different procedures is to help us remember Krishna. It's very simple. And if we're doing everything perfectly, we've got a curse. Dhanava, nobody Shama Eva Kevalam. If we're doing everything perfectly and we're not developing a taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna, that's really the point. It's a Sankirtan movement. Other procedures are basically secondary and subsidiary and should be helpful to the attachment to Krishna Katha. Right? Because that's a Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nama Sankirtan. Ekon Dharma. So the whole point is to have to get a taste for hearing and chanting. So instead of like watching a Bollywood movie or whatever, moving to the news, which is actually quite interesting nowadays. Probably more interesting now than it used to be, because the world is such a mess. Because then you got wars going on. You got, at least the country I come from, you got such interesting politics. It's like watching the Battle of Kurukshetra again, but with Kali Yuga, with a lot of lying and cheating, isn't it? Stealing people's votes and everything like it. So it actually can be very enticing, and also with modern day technology, you get very attractive. So the whole point is, our mind should be drawn spontaneously to Krishna Katha and the worship of Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's service, Krishna's devotees, so that we can't even think of something mundane. Actually, that's one of the symptoms of ruchi. In Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur talks about symptom of ruchi. Symptom of ruchi is that if you try to think of Maya, you can't. The mind, so, of course, we may be experiencing the opposite. When we try to think of Krishna, the mind goes to Maya, right? So that's that's our problem. Mind goes to Maya. But for a devotee, sort of advanced devotee, on the stage of ruchi means taste, having a taste for hearing and chanting. When an advanced devotee tries to think of something else, the mind just won't let it go there. That's amazing, isn't it? When you think about it. So that's a symptom of advancement, and if we're not gradually coming to that level, Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam, we're basically, to use an automobile example, we're spinning our wheels. It's like you recently had a lot of rain here, so the car got stuck in the mud or something like that. Some of you may have experienced that. From where I come from, we experience it all the time with snow. That you just push your pedal down, gas pedal down, petrol pedal, whatever you say there, and the wheels just spin. In other words, you're doing everything right, you're doing all these procedures, and you're not going anywhere. Or it's like Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave that example of the marriage party that was trying to go on a boat from one side of the river to the other, and they were rowing all night long. And when they woke up, they discovered they were still in the same place because the anchor was still there. Quite frustrating. I guess they missed the marriage. So, yeah, we have to see, are we actually developing a taste for Krishna? Especially curious about Krishna. Today I was doing some reading, and I was reading again from the Bhagavad Gita. You may say, oh, Bhagavad Gita, you're still on the neophyte stage. So I was reading from the Bhagavad Gita, and I was reading about the universe of all, which I just mentioned. And reading Prabhupada's purport, it was nectar. Each and every word was nectar. So we should come to that stage. And that's a simple Krishna consciousness I was raised with. The chanting the holy names. Like Rupa Goswami says that there's such nectar in chanting the holy names that it wishes for millions of mouths and tongues and ears to hear him chant. That's really where we're trying to get to. That's the goal. Okay? So, yes, your point about Niyamantra is very important, because the more complex we make things, of course some people have very complex brains, they may need to be complex, but there's not a criticism of any individual. But the more complex we make things, the more we actually tend to forget why we're here, why we're doing what we're doing. And then we just put ourselves on automatic pilot. In other words, just like somebody you drive in a car. You don't fly planes usually, most of you, unless there's Damodar Pandit, no, he's not here. So if you're driving a car, sometimes you get to your destination, you don't remember getting there, isn't it? Because you've driven that route before so many times. So sometimes you're chanting your japa, and you don't remember how you finished the 16 rounds. Or like one devotee jokingly said, wake me up when my rounds are done. So things should be done with attention. Krishna consciousness. Attention. Attention to Krishna's names, attention. And attention means remembering why we're doing what we're doing while we're doing it. Okay? So who else has a question? Someone else should ask a question. Marty, you have another question?
Do you have the little Hanuman here?
Do I have my little Hanuman?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the altar. Next to Giriraj. You see him?
Yes.
He travels with me everywhere. Or I travel with him, to be more precise. Yes.
Is it true that when Hanuman visited Govardhan, when Lord Ramchandra was getting the bridge built, that then he let Govardhan go because the bridge was finished? And is it true that when he let Govardhan fall back to earth, that's when Govardhan sort of broke into little feelers? Or
I haven't read the fever bit. All I know is that there's two stories in the Puranas. One is the story of Pulasya Muni, with Govardhan, and the other story is Hanuman. But I don't know the details about Govardhan coming with fever. You know the story? About fever? Why would Govardhan have fever?
oh, I don't know that.
You just said that.
Govardhan had a fever?
You said that. You just said that. He broke into a fever.
No, he broke into little feelers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your pronunciation is never mind.
Like that before Hanuman brought Govardhan back to...
I never heard that at all.
Yeah.
But where's that in the Shastras? Find out. Ask someone. Where is that written? So we have a right to ask using due etiquette. And someone says something, can you give me a reference to that? Yeah, we have some discussions on the GBC conference like that. And someone says something, and I say, where is that in the Vedic literatures? And they said, well, I saw it on this ISKCON desire tree. And that may be very nice, but where is it in the Vedic literatures? You know, we have Guru Shastra and so that means the Acharyas could have written it, which is fine, we accept, which I just told that story about Subal dressing up as Radharani and Radharani dressing up as Subal. Is that written by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur? Who is the Rasa Acharya? So, we really should be able to give Shastric references when we say something. At least something spiritual. You know, I can say, I'm here in Brisbane and there's no Shastric reference to that. But anything spiritual, Prabhupada, that's why Prabhupada emphasized that we should study the books and even learn some of the Sanskrit verses. So we can, I mean, you see, that's why Prabhupada would use or would cite Sanskrit verses to verify what he was saying, to establish the authenticity. And that's our method. I mean, you quote the law book. Prabhupada described a preacher sometimes as like a lawyer who would quote from the law book. So, everybody looks so excited. You're tired. So, any other questions? So, where's Dauji? So, should we have Dhammadarashika now, or? Oh, tomorrow night is an eclipse, in case you all didn't know. So the tradition is that during an eclipse you're not supposed to eat or do deity worship. You can chant Hare Krishna. Because Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared during an eclipse and they were chanting Hare Krishna, bathing in the Ganges simultaneously. So, anyway, so it basically starts about 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Technically, I mean, in one sense, as Vaishnavas, you know, we're transcendental to all these different things. But in another sense, we need to set a good example so people will respect our Krishna conscious movement. Prabhupada would sometimes say, Caesar's wife should be above suspicion. In other words, we are representing His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. So sometimes we have to be careful not to do anything culturally that would be accepted as bad. So I think it's important. So that'll be tomorrow evening. So everyone, not this evening, tomorrow evening. Everyone should eat tomorrow before 7. Because of the eclipse. That's tradition. It's a tradition, and there's Shastric injunctions that it's not an auspicious time. And of course, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, they didn't do anything except for chanting Hare Krishna during that time. Any other questions or comments? Now's your last opportunity. Yes?
Tomorrow is supposed to be also Salangram and Tulsi Vivaha.
Yes. So the devotees can celebrate that?
So I celebrate early morning or
Or earlier. Or they can celebrate the next day. I mean, it happened. It's interesting that the same thing happened at least a year or two ago that there was an eclipse on Tulsi Shalagram Vivaha. And I told the devotees in Lotoka not to have a late night program because of that. I don't know if they listened. Primarily, because spiritual activities are transcendental with these things. I mean, I know that. But primarily, we want people to respect our movement as bona fide. That's why when Prabhupada had the deity installation done in Vrindavan, he had a lot of ritualistic Brahmins do it. But Prabhupada commented after that, he said the real installation was done by the Harinam Kirtan, for the chanting of the Lord's holy names. And actually we understand that Krishna Balaram appeared at the behest of Srila Prabhupada. When the pure devotee calls Krishna to come, he comes. So, those are the two essential factors. I think it's important to understand that, but Prabhupada had that so that people would appreciate and respect our movement. So we want people to appreciate and respect our movement. Also, that means that we should always be perfect ladies and gentlemen. Because we are representing, at least those of you part of the Krishna conscious movement, are representing His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. We're His ambassadors. All right, let's have Damdarashika now. Okay. And then after that, what happens after that? Prasad for everybody? And then we'll get a chance to talk to people individually. Okay?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we are very humble and blessed with that. Thank you very much.
Humble and blessed.
Despite you not being very well, still came to visit, and I know it's a very short trip. But thank you very
Yeah.
much. We really appreciate it. And we're looking for the next visit.
Well, I'm still here. It's like one of these things, you know, you arrive in a place and they say, Mars, when are you leaving? Picking you up at the airport.
So Maharaj will be here after the RT, so anybody wants to meet him personally,
You
please.
can talk after that.
So we'll all stand up for the RT now, and we'll ask Gurudev to sing. Alright. You've got it all in the front here. What's that? We have to. We can make one line.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Swami Krishna His Divine Grace, Savaya Chanana, Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Stand Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Koti, Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Acharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Friends say, Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Dvaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasudhi Gaur, Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna, Gopinath, Simon Kunda, Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathura Ki Jai, Jagadasami Ki Jai, Yamuna Ki Jai, Shrimati Rasini Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Shri Ki Jai, Om Vishwadaya Krishna Vistaya, Putale, Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami, Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Chari, Nirvashesha, Shunyo, Vashachadesh, Tari, Prabhupada Ki Jai. So do you recite the English usually or no? You do, okay. Do we do that together? Okay, so we can recite together to the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge, and bliss, whose shark-shaped earrings are swinging to and fro, who is beautifully shining in the divine realm of Gokula, who, due to the offense of breaking the pot of yogurt that his mother was churning into butter, and then stealing the butter that was kept hanging from the swing, is quickly running from the wooden grinding mortar in fear of Mother Yashoda, but who has been caught from behind by her who ran after him with greater speed, to that Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, and offer my humble obeisances. Seeing the whipping stick in his mother's hand, he is crying and rubbing his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes are filled with fear, and the necklace of pearls around his neck, which is marked with 3 lines like a conch shell, is shaking because of his quick breathing due to crying. To the Supreme Lord, Sri Damodar, whose belly is bound not with ropes but with his mother's pure love, I offer my humble obeisances. By such childhood pastimes as this, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy, and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of the supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by devotees whose pure love is imbued with intimacy and is free from all conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. O Lord, although you were able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for the boon of any personal liberation, nor the highest liberation of eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon which may be obtained by executing the 9 processes of devotional bhakti. O Lord, I simply wish that this form of yours, this Balagopal of Vrindavan, may ever be manifest in my heart. For what is the use to me of any other boon besides this? O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, and your lips are reddish like the bit of a fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me. O Supreme Godhead, I offer my obeisances unto you. O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, O Master, O my Lord, be pleased upon me. By showering your glance of mercy upon me, deliver this poor ignorant fool who is immersed in an ocean of worldly sorrows and become visible to my eyes. O Lord Damodar, just as the 2 sons of Kubera, Manigriva and Alakubra, were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you in your form as a baby, tied with a rope for wooden grinding mortar, in the same way, please give me your own prema bhakti. I only long for this, and I have no desire for any kind of liberation. O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow to your most beloved Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. Lord Damodar, ki jai. All right, so what happens now? Right, someone else should do I'm still alive. Right now.
Red one? Yeah. I gave it back to my That's yours? Very good. It's very good.
Jai
His Holiness Sri Krishna Maharaj, Sri Krishna Temple Yatra ki Jai. So this Nashikadev prayer is dedicated to Guru Maharaj's health.
We'll say the Maha Mantra 3 times, for 3 times for Gurudev.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
His Holiness Sri Krishna Das Goswami Gurudev ki
Jai.
So those of you who want to come and see Gurudev personally, you can come and meet him one by one. And housekeeping, the toilets right on the left hand side, I think most of you are aware, and the prasad is being served outside now. So make your way to prasad. And thank you very much once again for coming. Let me down.
So mom was working tonight. She was working, yeah.
Sheri, तुम्हें पूरा फैमिली फोटो कराएंगे
Yeah, keep in touch. Congratulations. Yeah,